What's up, people? I am back. I was supposed to do this video yesterday and I fucked up and didn't do it. So I'm doing it today and taking a break from Bruce Lee. I'm thinking next week I'll probably find another Bruce Lee movie, so we'll get back to it. Before we get started, video plans for this week. Tomorrow, Goldfinger, my favorite Bond movie. I can't wait to do that one. Like when I think Bond movies, that's one of the ones I think of instantly. And then yeah, Odd Job. I mean, one of the best villains in the franchise. So yeah, so that's tomorrow. Wednesday, um, Southern Comfort. Thursday, Hellraiser 7, which has, my opinion, one of the dumbest titles. Deader, which I don't even know if that's a fucking word. I've never heard that word before. Deader. I mean, there's more dead, but dead. Okay. Anyway. And then Friday, Shrek, the first one. And then actually, what I might do, because there's two movies I want to see this Friday, because we got, one of them is the new Guy Ritchie movie. I love Guy Ritchie, one of my favorite directors. That's kind of like Tarantino, where I'm like, I don't think he's made necessarily a bad film. So, he has a new one coming out called Operation Fortune. Maybe I'll see if I can get that done on Saturday, or maybe Sunday during the day, and then Sunday night, I'm gonna review Creed 3 because two reasons. I do like the first two Creed movies, and I did enjoy the trailer. But also I'm going to see it because, I reviewed the other Creed movies. And I do, even though I don't know how I feel about Stallone not being in it, I think that is the biggest question of the movie, if this movie can, because I'm going to be honest, and I don't blame some people who are like, no Stallone, no Cell, kind of thing. Like, because one of the reasons we did watch these movies because they were attached to Rocky, so. But I enjoyed the trailer enough, so we'll see. But so yeah, I'll review that Sunday. So potentially two reviews on Sunday, or one of them maybe next Monday morning if I don't end up doing them both on Sunday. But anyway, but today, Cocaine Bear. This movie is one I only saw because of the title, literally, and it is directed by Elizabeth Banks, who directed that dog shit Charlie's Angels reboot, which thankfully did not watch. I just heard how bad it was. But she decided to direct it, because this is actually based off a real story. Granted, the story obviously isn't this. The story, basically, it's obvious. I think it's a bit short. Like, the bear just ate cocaine and then basically died. Like, it was just really high for a bit and then died. It wasn't this. But they're like, okay, we're going to take that premise but make it crazy. And I think I can understand people who don't like it. I can understand both sides. For me, these are one of those movies I knew going in obviously wasn't going to probably be objectively a good one. But I just wanted this to be a dumb, fun movie, and that's what I got. The humor wasn't there, I'll admit. I think there were some good jokes in there, but then there were some that I think ran too long. I think there was some humor where I'm like, okay, this kind of is just annoying. So it's very hit or miss. But the gore definitely holds it. Like, they don't hold back on the kills in this. Like, you see limbs and stuff fly off. The bear looks absolutely like shit. I won't front. Every shot of the bear, maybe besides the one shot, which is going to be the thumbnail, when it lays on Eddie, the main character, is probably the only, legit shot where the bear doesn't look horrible. Like, it looks legitimately like a computer generated. It's straight up CGI. They didn't even try to make it look real. And it just, so, yeah. But basically the premise is, just really quick, guy's throwing cocaine, trying to sell it, but he ends up trying to parachute down, but his parachute fucks up and he ends up passing out and dying. And the coke ends up in the forest. Bear eats it and basically goes crazy and is addicted to it and kills anything that gets in its way. So I'll admit, like the bear, they do treat as a threat, and they're like I said, the kills they don't hold back on. The characters don't really matter. I mean, there's like a couple different storylines. Like the main story, somewhat, is a mom named Dee Dee. I guess she's like a nurse. Is out while her daughter Sarah and her friend Henry ditch school to go to the forest, and they end up running into the bear. The mom has to save them, while Sid has to retrieve the drugs along with his cohorts, his son Eddie, and David, played by O'Shea Jackson, who's Ice Cube's son. I do like the 80s setting. I do like that they try to make it feel 80s, like even the way it's shot, the soundtrack is great. I think the soundtrack's easily one of the best things about the movie. It's just, if I were to watch it again, I'd almost watch it just to hear the music. They don't hold back on the soundtrack. Like, it feels very 80s. And I gotta say, Ray Liotta does a really good job for, this. You can understand, looking back watching this movie, he's not in it a lot, and it's probably health reasons why he's not in it a lot. But I thought for the little time he had, he was great as kind of like the secondary antagonist. And he felt like the character he was in Wild Hogs, where he was the main bad guy in that, but he had like that same kind of feel about him in this. But overall, he's like easily the best actor in the whole movie. Everyone else is just kind of there. You're just kind of waiting for people to die because of the bear. I did like the ranger lady, even though at times she was trying too hard. But I thought she was kind of funny at times. And then the main guy who ran the park was kind of a funny character. So the kid actors are terrible. They're easily the worst actors in the whole movie, especially Henry. Easily Henry. He's the every time he talked, I was just like, shut up, kid. I could have just done without the kids in general. I would have rather have just been about the guys, Sid's people trying to get the coke back, and then they meet up with his gang of because there's the other characters are, one of the guys is from this gang of people who kind of little troublemakers at the park. And yeah, he was kind of a cool character. It should have just been them. And then maybe the cop. I didn't really need the kids and the nurse. I didn't really need that. But whatever. But overall, it was enjoyable. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. I mean, if it's on maybe if they ever put it on, it's a Universal movie, so they'll probably put it on Peacock one day, and if I want to get really fucked up and then just put it in the background, I'd watch it. It's not boring. It gets going pretty quick. And I do wish there was a bit more bear, and the ending's a bit different. They didn't actually kill the bear at all. That's kind of what I thought originally was going to happen. Oh, they're going to end up killing it. No, it ends up, it's a mama bear, so it ends up, there's a scene where they meet the kid bears is pretty funny. The baby bears, that was pretty funny. They're all sniffed. They're addicted to the cocaine. So I think there's little bits in there. It's just, you got to know what you're expecting going in. I think if you know that, you might be able to enjoy it. I can understand though people who say the humor is not there. It didn't bother me, but I can understand why some people would say the humor is a bit annoying. I won't disagree with you if you think that, because it is very hit or miss. I think there are some legitimately funny jokes there, but yeah, like I said, the only real negative for me is I would have cut the kids out. I really think that if they had just cut the kids out, and maybe the mom character, but maybe have that actress, but she could have just played a different character. I didn't need the kids. I feel like kid actors weren't, especially for this story, I didn't feel like it was needed. So, but overall, yeah, 6.5 out of 10. It's a fun little flick. So, yeah. Let's get started here on the review. Tomorrow, Goldfinger, which I can't wait for. That is, to me, my favorite Bond film. When I think Bond movies, that is that one. Pussy Galore is the Bond girl. She's one of my favorite Bond girls. So, yeah. Yeah, can't wait. So, let's get going. So we see one of Sid's people throwing the cocaine down, getting ready to parachute down. Parachute ends up not working. He ends up passing out, and he falls to his death. In a bear in that forest ends up, or in the park, whatever you want to call it, ends up eating the cocaine. And then I'm thinking like the next day, because it's kind of a little bit of a time jump, we see Olaf, who's like this. I don't remember what country. I don't know if it's Sweden. It's one of the European countries. I know that. I just can't think of it right now. Are visiting the park where they end up running into the bear. And I do think it was an interesting way to introduce the bear. Because Olaf's like taking pictures, and initially the bear is like normal, and then it's starting to act weird. And then, yeah, the bear attacks them, kills his girlfriend. Then this is where we meet, I guess, somewhat one of the main storylines. Dee Dee, who's a nurse, and her daughter are having kind of like a falling out because Sarah doesn't like her boyfriend. Like, I'll admit this was just. I'll admit this section of the film was just kind of padding. So one day, Sarah ditches school while her mom's at work, along with her friend Henry, and to go to the falls to paint. While this happens, Sid tells David to retrieve the missing drugs and his son, who left the business because his wife died, and Sid's been taking care of his kids. So there's like a bunch of different like B plots going on, which, I understand this is a movie, and that's why this is one of those. This is the part of the film that you can almost say this probably shouldn't have made this a movie, because you took such a small premise and now you gotta add like actual story now, because that's kind of what it feels like with some of this story. And then you got Bob, who's the main cop throughout the film, who's hunting Sid, who his whole thing is he loves his dog, and he has his one of his cops take care of him, who I'll just spoil, ends up being revealed to having worked for Sid, and it's there was honestly there was no need for these subplots. I'm just gonna jump ahead, and so this is just padding so it can actually be an actual film, because you could easily whittle it down if you just want to focus on the cocaine bear parts, and whittle it down to like maybe 30 minutes to an hour, But anyway, like, it's enjoyable. I to an extent can understand you have to make it a plot. You make this a movie, so I can get like, because there's no plot. The actual story is very small. The bear ate the coke, was high for a bit, and it died. So they're like, okay, we got to make that an actual movie. But like I said, when you get to the actual bear parts, they're pretty fun. So while Henry and Sarah, they end up stumbling on the cocaine, which the cocaine the bear ate. I'll say this: the movie isn't boring. I will say that there is a lot of B plots you don't give a fuck about, but it is not boring. You're not like, okay, can you just end? Can this keep? Can we go? I didn't look. I wasn't like looking at the time on my phone or whatever. So I'll say that, as a positive. So the kids end up trying the cocaine, which I guess they just wanted to have a scene. Granted, they didn't do it right. They, like, ate it, but... And then, yeah, the bear attacks them. Then we have a time jump. Dee Dee... This is at the point Dee Dee realizes her daughter is missing. So she ends up finding the park ranger and the person who runs the park. Well, he was a funny character. I don't remember his name. While this is going on, there's, like, a bunch of shit going on. David has to find the drugs along with Eddie. That's what his name was. Eddie's whole arc, basically, this movie is because his wife died. He's so like out of the business, and initially doesn't see David as his friend, just sees him as a drug dealer. And then while David's in the bathroom, he gets attacked by the Duchamps, I think that's what they're called, who are like the Duchamp gang, who are like this gang of guys who steal. They're basically little troublemakers at the park. David instantly beats them up, forces one of them to tell him who ends up because one of them has coke on them, and they tell him that one of them tells them they hid it in a gazebo, and that's the other plot. I'll just jump to where Dee Dee ends up finding Henry in the tree because Henry tells them about the bear. They don't believe him. The bear attacks both. I think now I'm remembering what the park ranger's name was. Liz. The bear attacks Liz, scratching her. Like I said, they don't hold back on the violence. Like when you see her scratch on her, I'll say it's like near her ass. It's pretty bloody. The bear, like I said, looks awful. Like every shot, it clearly is like this is like straight up. Y'all didn't even try to make it look real. Like just straight up, like that's why I can understand why some people are laughing that it beat Ant-Man. I'm like, this is a sci-fi level movie, like a sci-fi channel level movie, just with actual actors in it. You know, at least a couple of them anyway. Like the guy who played the cop, he's in like The Wire. He's in like a lot of TV and stuff. So and then you have Ray Liotta, you have O'Shea Jackson, Ice Cube's son. So there is some names in this movie. So there are some actual actors. So that's the only difference. It's basically a glorified sci-fi channel movie, just with actual actors in it. So the bear ends up chasing Henry up the tree, which that was a fun little sequence. And then the bear smells the cocaine on the park owner and ends up killing him, which that was pretty brutal. Like you see like a blot of blood and then limbs flying. Like they do show limbs. So at least the gore factor is pretty up there. So I'd almost see it just for that. I think the next sequence is Liz ends up EMTs end up arriving. Who the EMTs I didn't really care for, but they weren't there long. We do get like a feminism joke, which was I'll admit I didn't expect. Which I obviously don't think she thinks that way because it's made by Elizabeth Banks, who notoriously attacked the audience because she didn't like her movie. But I'll call a spade a spade. That was a pretty good joke because the girl was trying to push the door open. And because there was a body blocking the door. I skipped that part of the movie. Where one of the two champs end up getting their head shot off by Liz. Because Liz was trying to shoot the bear because the bear ended up killing one of them. Because they ended up running into the cabin. Bear ends up killing them. Not killing two of them, leaving Liz alive. And this is where the EMTs arrive, and the body was blocking the door, and she was pushing the door open, and he's like, "Can you help me?" And he's like, "I thought you were all like, Miss Feminist." So I thought that was funny. So I'll give her that. Then get in the door. The bear attacks him because the bear is in the room, which I'll actually admit, this sequence was actually pretty well done. Because the guy ends up going in the door because the door's all closed and he finds the dead body, and then you just see the bear step out of frame. So I'll admit, okay, that was a good shot. Bear attacks, chases the EMTs. The EMTs end up crashing because Liz ends up flying out of the ambulance, and the EMTs end up getting killed because the bear ends up, attacking them and crashing the ambulance. Then this is where the next sequence of the film, like it's cut between, like, you have sequences of Dee Dee running around talking to Henry, and they run into Olaf while the cop ends up finding the stashed coke. And David, Eddie, and the other guy end up finding the gazebo. We have a standoff. Because the cop's on top of Bob, that's what the cop's name was, is on top of the gazebo. The bear smells the cocaine. I'll admit, this section was actually pretty funny. This is probably the funniest section of the whole movie, where the bear ends up falling asleep on Eddie. I thought that was pretty fun. It was a pretty funny scene. It was like, I'm like, okay, that's something I can actually see in like an old school comedy back in the day. So Bob triggers the bear with, cocaine. And then we have a standoff between the cop and David, because David's determined to get that coke back. Then Sid ends up killing him. And Sid, David, and Eddie go look to retrieve more coke. Because, this was at the point where we get the reveal that the cop that was working with Bob was actually working for Sid, which is whatever. Like the human stuff, you do not give a fuck about. I'm not gonna front. You don't really care about this. You just want to see the bear. So that's kind of how I looked at it. Like, the human stuff is just noise and time filler. But it wasn't filler in a bad way. But it was like clearly there just to make an actual movie. We gotta give it an actual movie length. So Olaf and Dee Dee and Henry, well, not Olaf, but Dee Dee ends up following, because Sarah left clues to where her whereabouts were. She was hiding in the cave where the bear was, and this is where we get the reveal that the bear is a woman. Actually, no, it was revealed earlier, because there's a joke, which I thought was kind of funny, where Eddie's, the bear's laying on him, and he says his pussy is on my ears. So I'm like, okay, we're not putting his vagina, but, whatever. And then, we see that it has babies. The bear has babies. And they're, snorting the coke, which I thought that was funny. While this is happening, Sid, David, and Eddie are looking for coke. And this is where I'm just going to speed this up, because this section of the movie basically is just the final section. Ray Liotta, I'll admit, he does pretty good as the bad guy. And this is like, I'll give him this. Like, for, unfortunately, it's crazy that R.I.P. Ray Liotta, this is his last performance in a movie, but it was decent for a movie like this. For a movie like this and what the premise is, I thought he did a pretty good job. He was hateable. He was funny. He said some funny stuff. You could tell he at least was trying. It didn't feel like phoned in or anything. And like, he's basically in this section of the movie. Yeah, he's not in the whole movie. Like, he's in the beginning, and I think he's in like a phone call or something like that in the middle, but then he comes back at this point. David and Eddie are basically starting to realize, we don't want to do this no more. So Eddie they find the last of the coke. Because at that point, that female cop had turned away. And they end up trying to get the coke back. The babies go, and Mama attacks. Mama ends up getting hurt, but then she smells the cocaine when it falls, and she wakes up, ends up killing Ray Liotta. Goes out pretty brutally. Like, he gets like his chest cut open, like his intestines. Everybody escapes. The bear's with her family. Eddie gets reunited with his kid. Yeah, movie ends. It's a fun little flick. I don't think I'd recommend seeing it in theaters, though. Like, maybe matinee. But, just maybe wait for home. It's Universal, so if you have Peacock, it probably will be on there at some point. But it's a fun little movie. Get drunk. Maybe I would watch it with people. This is definitely one. Maybe watch with a buddy or somebody you could laugh with. But the humor is very hit or miss. For me, it's hit or miss. I could see some of you. I could understand if you think, the humor's shit and it's not funny at all. I don't blame people who say that. The humor is definitely try hard at some points. The human stuff is just time waster, just to fill time. The bear scenes are great, even though the bear looks awful, like, from a visual point. But I'm not necessarily going to use that as a negative, though, because this is a Universal version of a Sci-Fi Channel movie. That's essentially what this is. I mean, this could easily be on a sci-fi. If you just took out some of the name actors, you take Ray Liotta out of it, this could easily just be some Sci-Fi Channel movie you would have seen in like the mid-2000s. So the violence is there. It's a fun little time. That's why I gave it a 6.5. I can't really give it anything higher than that on an objective level. Maybe on a subjective level, I maybe a 7, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. But if it's on, and maybe want to show a buddy or something, then yeah, I'd put it on. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on it. It knows what it is. So anyway, tomorrow, Goldfinger, which that's a classic. I can understand. To me, that is also where I think Sean Connery is at his best, because he had done it twice at this point. It felt like he had just, even though I thought he did great in the first one, but in Doctor No, but to see him like in this one, it was just at his best. Everybody was at their best. The villain with Goldfinger was an awesome villain. You had the classic villain against the classic hero face off in the end. Odd Job is like this, the secondary villain who's like on the more physical side. One of my favorite Bond girls, and just the name alone, Pussy Galore, just everything around that movie, just phenomenal. So I can't wait to watch that one again. So yeah, can't wait to continue down the Bond train, but especially with what they're trying to fucking do. I'll talk about that more tomorrow. But anyway, I'm gonna cheers and talk to y'all tomorrow. As usual, fuck Joe Biden. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.